Well, I probably have to go over there. Oh no, it's here, it's quite cold, so.
Brave it.
We're now live.
Okay, we're live. Thank you all very much for coming. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to members, officers, the press and public joining us for the Local Development Committee meeting tonight. This meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so welcome to everyone viewing online. Some of our officers are joining this evening's meeting via Zoom. Can everyone present hear me? Online, please. Thumbs, yep, and nods. My name is Councillor James Beckles and I will be chairing this evening's meeting of the Local Development Committee. For the members in the room, when you are speaking, please speak clearly and loudly so that the microphone can pick up what you say. For those joining by Zoom, please mute your microphone if you are not speaking. I will now ask the members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. So start on my left.
I'm Councillor Kamali from Stratford Ward.
I'm Femi Falola from East Town.
I'm Councillor Larissa Jelitka, Green Street East Ward.
I'm Councillor Carolyn Corbyn from Maryland Ward.
I'm Councillor Saeed Bashar, Little Linford Ward. Councillor Imam from East Town.
And we've got Councillor Jane Lofthouse has just joined us. Right.
Samir Ben Barrett, Principal Planner.
And officers online, please introduce yourself.
I'm Jane Custance. I'm the Director of Planning and Development.
Louis Moore, Development Manager.
Vincent Healy, Legal Advisor.
Thank you. I want to remind members that when a vote is taken, it will be by way of hand in order that we can capture this on screen. Are there any apologies? We've got one apology from Councillor Musbir Rahman.
Councillor Salim Patel.
Councillor Salim Patel. Any other apologies? None.
Just mine being late.
Yours captured. Thank you very much. So item 2 is minutes of the meeting of the 24th of February, 2025. We're going to have a quick scan of those there on page 11 of the agenda. Any corrections or amendments? 12, 13, and page 14 and 50. Do we agree?
Agreed.
Okay. Agreed. Minutes of the last meeting are agreed. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of any items to be discussed tonight?
No.
None? Determining planning applications. Members are asked to note the advice from the Head of Legal Services on determining planning applications. Is that noted?
Noted.
Thank you so much. There's no announcements from me, but there's the request to address the committee. Apologies. There's request to the committee. The members have received the following request to address the committee. Would the speaker please identify themselves when their name is called? So item 6, we have Sam De Silva. Thank you very much. And we have Naila Qureshi. Thank you. You'll both have 5 minutes in total, so you can share that between yourselves. Is that agreed? Thank you. And can we agree the remainder of the items on the agenda, please?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We now move to item 5. So we now move to item 6, and please begin.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. This is item 6, 116 to 122 Barking Road. The application site is a row of 2-storey buildings located on the southern side of Barking Road. The site is located within the Canning Town town centre. It is not located within any assigned or heritage designations. However, it is located opposite the Grade 2 listed Canning Town Library. The images on this slide shows an aerial context of the site along Barking Road viewed from the north and a street image from the site viewed from the northeast. Proposal is for the erection of a 6-storey mixed-use building following demolition of the existing 2-storey buildings. The upper floors would accommodate residential use, while the ground and basement floors would accommodate commercial units and ancillary spaces for the residential use above. Above are the key considerations for the proposed development. These are the principal, housing offer, quality of accommodation, urban design, neighbouring amenity and sustainable transport. Here's some key visuals. First is the basement plan, ground floor and first floor plan. Then we have the second, third and fourth floor plans. And then we have the fifth and roof plans. Here are some key visuals of the elevations. The one on the left is the north elevation, view from Barking Road. And the one on the right is the south elevation. Principle of development. The proposed uses of residential and commercial are supported, given that they are desired uses for town centres under both the London Plan and Newham Local Plan. Housing is much needed within the borough. The initial loss of the existing commercial units is supported as it will be replaced with commercial floor space of a higher quantity and quality. The loss of the existing first floor residential unit will be replaced with floor space that exceeds the existing quantum and is therefore supported. The development of a tall building in this location is supported in principle, as whilst it is noted the site is located just outside of the Canning Town tall buildings area, consideration is given to the pattern of development within the vicinity, high public transport accessibility, and a previous planning permission at this site, which was also granted for a tall building. The principle of development is therefore supported. Housing offer. Both the London Plan and Newham Local Plan require residential development to achieve a dwelling mix of large and smaller homes. Policy H1 of the local plan requires major development to have a dwelling mix comprising of 39% family-sized homes. Whilst the proposed dwelling mix has 33%, consideration towards the viability of the development, site conditions constraints, and the local context, and the quality of accommodation the scheme provides. Both London and Newham plans require major development delivering residential to provide affordable housing. Following the submission of a viability assessment, which is being reviewed externally and independent to both the applicant and the council, no affordable housing offer will be provided. But whilst regrettable, consideration is given towards the mix of units, the balance of family housing provided, and the overall delivery of much needed housing. All of the units will comply or exceed the specified space standards for internal and external living space. The units would also provide a good acceptable layout, including circulation space with a acceptable provision of natural ventilation, natural light and outlook. The 3-bedroom units would be dual aspect and the 1-bedroom units single aspect. Policy compliant rule check accessible units will also be provided. Quality of accommodation, accessible housing is therefore supported. The tall buildings policies of the development plan have defined requirements regarding the development of a tall building, in particular regarding views and townscape. In this instance, it is considered that whilst the proposed development would be inevitably visible in some views, it will not cause a harmful impact upon local or wider views and skylines. This is taking into account its location along Barking Road and the surrounding taller developments. The height and scale of the development is also considered suitable in respect to the scale of the site. Whilst the proposed materials have been provided within the application and is largely supported, further details are required, which will be secured by a condition requiring external architectural details and external figures for approval prior to above ground construction works. Development is also considered acceptable in regard to crime prevention and fire statement requirements subject to conditions. Therefore, the development is supported in respect to urban design. Neighbouring amenity. The proposed development would impact the amenity of the immediate neighbour at number 124 Barking Road in regard to daylight, sunlight and outlook. However, officers also considered the uplift in residential, including family housing, as well as the commercial improvements to the town centre, which outweighs the shortcomings to amenity to this neighbouring property. It's considered that the proposed development will not adversely harm the amenity of other surrounding properties based on the form, setback and separation distance of the development from neighbouring windows. Upon approval, recommended conditions include a demolition construction, environmental plan and a condition restricting Class E operations to maintain neighbouring amenity. Overall, it is considered there will be no harmful impact towards neighbouring amenity. Transport, servicing and waste. The site is in a PTAL rating of 6A, which indicates excellent access to public transport. The development will be car-free through no provision of parking spaces on site and secured by Section 106 agreement to restrict parking permits. This is justified given its PTAL rating. The quantum on cycle parking and refuse storage provided is supported with condition recommended for details respectively. The submitted travel plan is considered acceptable with monitoring and measures contributions secured by Section 106 agreement. A condition is recommended for the submission of a delivery and servicing plan, which should also cover waste management. The recommended submission of a The MP, as mentioned earlier, would also cover the transport and highways aspects during the construction phase of the development. Other considerations are listed on this slide, which are considered acceptable subject to section 106 obligations and or conditions. This includes a net zero carbon contribution and an employment contribution. With respect to all supported. Recommendation. Therefore, as a recommendation, local development committees are resolved to 1, agree the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report, and 2, delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to completion of a legal agreement and the conditions as listed in the committee report.
Thank you very much, Samir. Before I move to members' questions, the applicant. I'd like to begin. You wish.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sam De Silva, representing the Green Code Holding, and we are the agent and architect submitted the scheme at 116 to 122 Barking Road. This proposal presents a design-led context-sensitive response to an understood but strategically located site in the center of Canning Town. It brings forward a high-quality mixed-use development that addresses the housing needs and strengthens the district center. In 2020, we submitted a planning permission, was granted for a development scheme at 116 Barking Road, including a shop unit at a ground floor and a 5 one-bedroom flats above. This current scheme builds on the earlier approval, extending across the adjacent plots to create a more coordinated and efficient development. The proposal seeks a full permission to demolish the existing 2-story building and construct a 7-story mixed-use building. At ground and basement level, we are providing approximately 350 square meters of flexible Class C commercial spaces, supporting a range of potential tenants. Above there will be 15 new homes. A mix of 10 one-bedroom units and 5 3-bedroom family units, all of which meets and exceed the national and London plan space standards. Each home has provided outdoor spaces, and residents will also have access to shared roof terrace. The design addresses both the scale of the street and the evolving townscape around it. Barking Road retains its low-rise traditional feel, while areas to the west and south are seeing more ambitious growth and densification. Our design bridges the transition with the confident, proportionate massing. The building features red brick with a concrete detailing, recessed balconies, and setback top floor reduces visual impact. We have taken care to minimize any potential for overlooking or overshadowing, especially to the rear, where we have included angled balcony screens. A full daylight and sunlight assessment has been carried out, and the scheme performs well within the acceptable guidelines. Ahead of the submission, we undertook a program of community engagement in March 2024. We held a public exhibition and a distribution of over 330 newsletters to local residents and businesses. Feedback was generally supportive of the principle of the development and the improvements to the street frontage. The concerns were raised around the privacy, massing, and parking. We made changes to address them, including stepping back upper floors and improving screening. The scheme is car-free in line with the borough's sustainable transport objectives and supported by PTAL rating of 6A. We are including secure cycle parking, and the building will feature solar panels, green roof. All of new homes will meet M42 accessibility standards with the 20% designed to M43 wheelchair user criteria. I hope this application will be granted, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. And within time, Nick would like to use anything?
Sounds.
Thank you very much. Members, would you have any questions? Councillor Lofthouse.
Yes, I've got one for clarification, really, regarding the commercial elements of it. I wonder if you could expand on that a bit and say what implications it's had for any commercial units that are currently there.
At the moment, it's been used as a Ladbroke Casino on a ground floor, and we have a hairdressers and we have a pawnbrokers. So we are taking that out, and we're giving a very large space of 350 square meters of space in 2 floors that can be divided into either 4 units or 2 units with the basement and the ground floor.
So the other units, those previous ones will go, right?
I cannot comment on the lease agreements and the context of it, but instead of what we are taking out, we're giving more space. As I mentioned, 350 square meters we're giving. So what we are practically taking pawnbrokers and Labrooks and hairdressers, and we're giving a much more needed space.
And hairdressers, is it?
And there is a hairdressers, yes. And they have a potential to take back the lease or ask for new lease, but I cannot comment on that. It's beyond my remit.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
Before I go to other members, I just wanted to comment on the number of one-bedroom homes. It makes up 66%, and this part of Newham, as with all parts of Newham, quite very densely populated, a lot of families, large families. And I can see that you've made some effort in terms of three-bedroom homes, which are 33%, which is admirable, thank you. But those 10 homes, those 10 rooms, who are you gearing this property towards? Is it young professionals? Is it a mix of families? And is there any way to, I guess we've had a conversation with officers about the number of family homes, but can you give us some rationale behind it?
Sure. We have carried out a financial viability report, and that has been assessed by independent appointed by the council, our financial viability assessment, and it has very clearly demonstrated, and it's not viable for us to give affordable housing or that much of mixed use because it's not making enough profit. But what we have looked at here is we're giving a 33% of 3 beds, and the 1 bed is what we are more looking for the professionals coming into the area at the same time who want to downsize. And because we are giving a much more 1-bedroom flats with a bigger space, this will allow people who want to downsize as well. And because they have they are large 1-bed flats.
Okay, and Samir or Louis, which I'd like to pick up on that. Thank you very much for the clarification around the size, especially in terms of square meterage. And in terms of, I say, London plan and our own compliance, in terms of the size of these 1 beds and even the 3 beds, are they obviously within standard code? Are they larger than our average?
Yep, so if I recall, the 1-bedroom units are either 200 standards or above, and the 3-bedrooms all exceed the London plan standards.
Okay.
And that's also taking out, the external space and the internal space.
Excellent.
It's worth, sorry, Chair, if I can jump in as well. It's just worth noting on the, obviously, as the applicant noted, the viability assessment effectively said that even with all 1 bedroom, so the initial scheme that was submitted to us was 21 bedroom units effectively, was not viable even as that, and kind of based on kind of market forces, normally 21 beds would do better than 15 with a few 3 beds in them. So in reality, we effectively said, we don't think that we can still support this without at least some level of kind of mix here. So we've kind of, removed some of those 1 beds and conglomerated to create these 3 beds. In liaison with the applicant over the last couple of months, which does now mean that those 3 bedrooms are significantly oversized actually, and they're kind of with their dual aspect, and both they have effectively winter garden balconies on both sides of the development as well, means there'll be quite decent sized spaces and 3-bedroom units. So actually, unlike in kind of, sometimes you might have 3 bedrooms in a flat block that it's still quite limited in space and kind of circulation space. We consider these actually to be relatively high quality in terms of their overall space they're providing now, and actually their functionality as a 3-bedroom unit.
Okay, thank you very much, Samir and Louis, for your clarifications. Councillor.
I've got a few questions, but I'll follow up on your one. So I presume there's no affordable housing in this scheme. So what has been done to ensure housing is affordable for low and middle class, middle income family and single parents?
I cannot comment on in terms of the pricing, but what we are hoping to do here is to give a high standard housing, and obviously the market price at the time and what's happening in the current market, I honestly cannot comment on in terms of the price reductions or anything like that. It's up to the client or any agreements that we are coming to, because if you look at on a recommendation, there is a 2-point review also being agreed at a later stage by the planning department. So if there is enough funds available, if the project become viable, and there is a 2-stage review process there for us to give the more funds to us, affordable housing, etc. Section 106.
You mentioned you've done community engagement. How many people were part of the community engagement?
We have given 350 leaflets out. We done that on a community center, and there's about 75 people attended for the full exhibition.
Okay. And can I ask if you,
Please come in.
I wanted to ask about the material. What building materials are being used and do they comply with national and local safety standards?
We have used the red bricks at this stage, which the council is supporting, and we went through two pre-up into the full planning. And in terms of the further material, etc., will be communicated through the any conditions that is applying after the application. In terms of the safety measures, we'll be going through the building regulation, and they'll be granted through the next stage of the construction stage through building control.
So your materials will be tested for fire resistant and moist controls for further damp.
100%, that is a part of the building control measures.
Okay, thank you.
Just in terms of the red brick, is that to bring it more in line with similar buildings around here? Or
Correct.
Okay.
Is the building next to it? We are keeping with it the building to the right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Falola.
Falola Eastham, is it fair to say that your target audience are not Newham residents? Is it fair to say that?
We don't have no control over who is going to purchase the property and properties in the area. However, we are providing into the local community, but as you can respect the fact, I cannot comment on what's going to happen in the future, who is going to buy the properties in this area. It's out of my remit to answer that question, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Any other members come in? Okay, and I've just had a few other questions around, I saw in the presentation, there was commitments to pay £15,000. And can you tell us more about that and where that money will be used for, especially with regards to this development?
Yeah, so I'll just go back to the slide to show those
Yeah,
figures. So the net zero carbon contribution of the 15,000, so that comes from so as part of the application, they're required to do sustainability measures to reduce energy usage or energy consumption. And then from that, the figure is calculated to compensate for not getting to 100%. So it's sort of like a cover. So it was calculated at £15,105. So that's that. And then the employment contribution as well, that is also, I think, that is calculated from the construction costs and taking into account the cost of the build and viability assessment. That is the contribution calculated. So that's to get employment for local residents in the construction phase and getting like a local workforce and integrating that.
Okay, and is that part of the heads of terms to actually have the 35% of new residents built into that? Okay.
It's a cost of £92,000 for
92,000, that's the cost, okay. All right, are there any further questions from members or? Nothing, no comments? So we'll now move back to the recommendations. Okay, the Local Development Committee is asked to resolve: 1, agree the reasons for approval as set out in the committee report, the update report, and 2, delegate authority to the Planning Director and Development to grant planning permission subject to the completion of a legal agreement under Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 and other details on screen. Those members who wish to approve or the application, please show of hands. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those who wish to vote against, show of hands. It's 2. And abstaining. 1. So it is approved, 5, 2, and 1. So you have planning approval.
Thank you so much. Thank you, officers.
Yeah. And we now move to the final item, which is item 7, which is the date of the next meeting, which is the 12th of May 2025. Thank you everyone for attending tonight and good night.